KNUS Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
.710 KNUS Denver's talk station Wednesday morning. There's a lot going on behind the scenes with apologies to out there. Wednesday morning, 9 of July, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station, 303-696-1971. 100 degrees, the high today, 93, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, 85 degrees. It is time for the Olson Report. What a morning it has been. Ladies and gentlemen, plunk your magic twanger, Froggy. Here we go. Wow. What a morning.
Whoa. Did you think on Monday that you were going to have this much fun by Wednesday?
2 days in a row.
Goodness.
Come on.
That was incredible, Pete.
That guy is amazing. And he comes in and he called me and he said, I know them. And I said, know who? He said, I know Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh,
I met him.
Goodness.
Yeah, so.
You just keep on pulling them, man.
Well,
51 years in the business. Oh my!
And still make major mistakes. So,
that wasn't a mistake. That was unbelievable.
Let's see what tomorrow brings. I mean, again,
right?
Because I have a good friend in studio sitting next to me for the next segment. But number one, do you believe there was a cover up with this with Epstein, and a cover up? And my friend's going like that. I certainly believe it. And so historians would then ask, given the Watergate investigations, if there was a cover-up, what was it, or clearly, what is it that they do not want you to see and or hear, or what goes with it?
Right.
There's something.
And what Mike just said, I kind of agree with him. I mean, maybe it's trying to be pulled into World War III. Has something to do with that. I believe that. I really do. I mean, nothing would shock me at this point.
Do the news, and we'll meet again tomorrow morning at 9.
All right.
No, we got one more to do. We got one more cast. It is all yours.
I thought you were going to let me leave.
Where I was.
Come back, please, Peter. 69 and sunny, expecting a high of 100 today. Heat advisory today. News presented by International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Now is the time to stand with Israel. Call 800-301-1188. That's 800-301-1188. Or go to 710knus.com and click on the big red Stand With Israel banner at the top of the page. Our top story, police investigating a late-night shooting in Denver's Lowry Field neighborhood. Officers called to the 500 block of Alton Way just after 9:30. A man with gunshot wounds was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators asking anyone with information about the shooting to contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. The death toll remains around 110 today following the devastating flooding in central Texas. On top of all of that, Texas Governor Abbott confirms more than 170 people are still missing days after the region was hit by sudden flash flooding. While the odds of locating any survivors are dropping, Governor Abbott has made it clear that no one will rest until every person missing is accounted for. Former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey are now under criminal investigation, according to Fox News. They're being investigated for creating the Trump-Russia hoax, Russia, 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 with lie after lie after lie. Tuesday at the cabinet meeting, presser, DJT answering the Epstein question.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
He gives Pam Bondi an out, but she talks anyway about what she said on Fox months ago.
It's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was...
Okay, that's where she lost everyone. She lost everyone there. The video looked like courtroom drawings. I mean, the quality was horrific. Pete had a gentleman in studio. If you're just joining us right now, last hour, reporter Mike Conner wrote for Time magazine in 1997. He was at a dance club in Denver. And guess who approaches Connor and his buddy? Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. What?
And then my buddy who was with me had owned a modeling agency. And as soon as he had told her that, she's like, oh, you got to help me find girls for Jeffrey.
That quick.
That quick. I mean, this was like trailer park trash. I mean, people in the trailer park trash would be embarrassed by the manner in which she's going at it. But she's got this classy British accent. And I go, well, there are no girls. This is a dance club.
Is it a 18-year-old plus or 21 plus?
21 plus.
Okay.
I go, there's no girls here. Why are you here looking for girls?
Wow. It ended with Connor being disgusted and getting away from the freak show. Federal authorities say the month-long illegal immigration crackdown will continue in L.A. The recommitment comes after Monday's massive show of force by the federal agents near MacArthur Park. Investors watching closely today as the Fed releases minutes from its May meeting, offering insight into possible interest rate cuts ahead. Too late, Jerome Powell continues to hear it from DJT about lowering rates. 66 in Littleton, 67 in Lakewood, 69 in Denver. And Pete, the legend, in for Jeff and Billy this week. His show continues right now. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your day weather forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a warm start to a hot day this Wednesday. Early morning temperatures well in the 60s, quickly hitting the 70s, 80s, not stopping in the 90s until probably the lower 100s for highs today. Heat advisory in effect, near 70 for a low tonight. Low to mid-90s for highs Thursday, back to the 80s for Friday and Saturday. Scattered showers and thunderstorms.
Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Wednesday morning, everyone, the 9th of July. Boy, these last couple of shows have just been incredible. Good old 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. Good to have you here. 100 the high today, 93 Thursday, and 85 on Friday. I'm here until Saturday morning, and then the guys come back on Monday. we're going to do the next hour, and it's the first time we've met, but we've spoken on the phone. His name is Ian Escalante, and he is with Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. Then next hour, we'll catch up in open lines. Everybody's chomping at the bit about 15 different topics, and so we'll give it into the next hour. Colorado has recently enacted these new gun laws that took effect on July the 1st of 2025, so they've been in here for 9 days now. And the laws primarily focus on, they say, safety, storage, purchase, and sales, but I think it's far more insidious. Ian, welcome to the show, man. It's good to finally meet you. Good to have you here.
Yeah, good to meet you as well. Glad to be back. I've been in this studio a handful of times with Jeff and Bill, so it's good to be here with you.
Let us begin your background so folks know who you are.
Absolutely. So my name is Ian Escalante. I am the executive director for Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. We are Colorado's only no-compromise Second Amendment organization. We fight in the courts, we fight in the election, and we also fight in the legislature against gun control. And we are one of the few groups that actually goes out there and does all three. And this session we saw something that we have never seen before, and that is when the Democrats, and I don't even really, it's not even
you
a
and I
party
talked
thing
about this
point.
often.
Yeah, it's not even a party thing at this point. It's just the leftists are hell-bent on destroying our rights, on eviscerating our Second Amendment, and turning us into slaves.
And having said that, we both agree on it's not the fault of the Democrats. The Democrats are doing what the Democrats believe is true. You and I had this conversation. The Democratic Party and the Democrats in Colorado believe they are doing the right thing. The Republican Party, we were talking about boxing.
Yeah.
You know, Buster Douglas did not win that fight. Mike Tyson lost it. Fighters win, fighters lose. So how would I expect, with there's no one standing there, no one exchanging punches, I say this collectively, what did you expect to see happen?
Exactly. I mean, the problem is the GOP's too busy punching themselves. And it's
awful.
The fact of the matter is that you see so many organizations that will fight tooth and nail to stop a grassroots conservative candidate from winning. And we've seen this happen over and over and over again. We saw it happen in the primaries last year. We've seen it happen in the last few cycles. And then what happens? You get these Republicans that they go up there and they pretty much vote like Democrats, and they put their name on bills with Democrats, and then they run around and go, well, I just got to get things done. No, you're literally playing patty cake with the enemy, and you are helping them out and you're legitimizing them.
And on the other hand, they can't, in both elections, Donald Trump loses in Colorado. And so how do you, and I've had long conversations with Chuck Monowell, how do you have someone run for office that has your interest at heart, and yet in a state where you got no shot? I mean, we're almost become, we are now, the number 2 crime state in the nation. I mean, that's a manifestation of the politics of the Democratic Party. It's just legit. So now I know the requirements, and I've read this, and thanks to Dudley, Colorado now requires firearms to be stored. I'm going to bring up some issues,
Sure.
And then you talk to them. When you carry one in your vehicle, now what does the new law mean? What does the new law say?
Sure. So the new law says that if you're leaving your firearm unattended in your vehicle, you have to either put it in a hard-sided locked container, and it has to be stored out of sight within your vehicle. Otherwise, you could suffer. Initially, it was going to be a misdemeanor charge. They lowered it down now to a civil infraction, because when the first draft of the bill came up, it actually, getting your firearm stolen would carry a harsher sentence than stealing a firearm.
So, but what is the purpose of having a firearm in your car or truck, and you need it quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, this was all sold under the guise of, oh, well, we got to stop people from these thugs from stealing firearms out of cars. The easy way to do that is to actually start putting these people in prison. I mean, it seems like in this state, our district attorneys and our, court officers and our politicians, they just don't believe in jail anymore. And you see this happen over and over again. A good friend of mine up in Longmont, he owns a pawn shop, and a few years ago, he had this woman break in and steal thousands of dollars worth of merchandise, including firearms. Turns out, when they finally caught up to her, she was on all kinds of drugs.
Oh,
she
sure.
had a history. She had been stealing things up and down the Front Range. She was pretty much wanted all over the state. And our lovely district attorney in Boulder, who's now running for attorney general, let her out on a PR bond.
Firearms dealers in Colorado, and I have a dear friend who is leaving the state, and he's moving north and opening even a bigger shop. And we've been friends for a long, long time. I've taken lessons from him. And one of the things I said to him, I said, "You want to do a sale before you go?" And he said, "Hell no." He said, "I'm taking all this with me." But the state permit requirements and firearms dealers now in Colorado, now think about this, you guys, so you can hear it through. Firearms dealers in Colorado are now required to obtain state-issued permits in addition to their federal license. Ian, the purpose of that?
So, honestly, none of these laws can really be discussed in isolation. They all tie together.
I'm going to bring them up.
Oh,
one at a
absolutely.
time.
Yeah, they all tie together. And this law, along with the other laws that I'm sure you're going to bring up, I've kind of dubbed that the matrix of civilian disarmament.
Okay.
All 4 to 5 of these laws, they work together, and the end goal is to destroy the industry, because they know they can't get away with saying, okay, we're going to come beat your door down and take your AR-15 away. But what they can do is make it to where it's pretty much impossible to buy a gun in the state of Colorado. And if you drive out all the businesses, where are you going to buy a gun?
That's the point. I mean,
exactly.
This guy's leaving, and he's prominent, and he sees the handwriting on the wall. And in 26, the new other laws, more additional, more harsh, enact. But right now, there's the new requirements for concealed carry, restrictions on sales, especially as you mentioned on semi-autos, and changes to firearm dealer licensing. Now, I wrote this down on my worksheet. Do you think any of these things that we're about to talk about would stop or hinder crime?
No way. Absolutely
exactly.
not. Absolutely not, especially when, as Colorado becomes more restrictive of its peaceful citizens who want to defend themselves, the cartel and the harsh criminal element that has come over the border over the last, honestly, 2 decades. This is something that is not just an Obama-Biden problem. This goes all the way back to the late Bush years, where we started just letting influxes and influxes of illegal aliens in. And they're seeing this Colorado as a right market to start selling firearms illegally. And they have shops set up right here in Aurora. They have shops set up down in the San Luis Valley. They have shops set up on the Western Slope. We are becoming, the more we restrict the peaceful gun owner and the peaceful Coloradan, the more we're empowering organized crime.
I mean, it stands to reason. If, I mean, the state permit requirement and my friend has all these really fine young guys working for him, former GIs, and and now they're going to have to get a license from the state after they've gotten a federal license. And they ponder that. They go, why? And it's, I mean, if you can pass the federal requirements to become a worker in a gun store, Why do I need a very left-wing state to test me, to give me approval to go to work?
And I'll tell you exactly why. And this goes all the way back to the magazine fight. So during the magazine fight in 2013, I believe it was 61 or 62 of the 63 or 64 elected sheriffs said, no, this law is bogus. We're not going to enforce it. So for the longest time, I mean, really up until about now, you've still been able to buy standard capacity magazines because we have good sheriffs in this state who were not going to allow Denver's tyranny to infect the state. Well, the issue is that the commie leftists down under the Gold Dome, they hated that. They hated it with a passion. They were actually sending anti-gun activists around to these gun shops, trying to report them for selling, they're selling these high-capacity assault magazines. Well, what they did with the permitting now is now that in order to conduct business as a firearms dealer in the state of Colorado, you need to get permission from DOR. They've completely circumvented the sheriffs now. So it doesn't matter if the sheriffs say, I refuse to enforce it. If you don't comply as a gun dealer, the state will just pull your permit and report you to the ATF.
Sheriff Reams has already told me that he's going to have to hire, and they're on a really strict budget, more employees to do precisely that.
Yep.
And he said, we don't have time or effort to do it. The enhanced training, we've talked about this a couple of times. And by the way, if you fail to obtain state permits and take your employees back through all of this, what potentially can happen to you?
Well, you'll be shut down. You won't be allowed to conduct business as a firearms dealer in the state of Colorado. You will be reported to alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which the good thing now that President Trump is in office is that the Department of Justice has more or less done away with Joe Biden's zero tolerance rule. So under zero tolerance, if you were to get reported to the ATF for not complying with state law, such as the state permit, the ATF would also yank your federal license. I don't know how that's going to work now that zero tolerance has been mostly repealed, but at the very least, there's a marginally more friendly ATF than we had, last year.
There's two statements that come from historians. One is the First Amendment remains simply because of the Second, or because of the Second.
Absolutely.
It supports the First. The other one is when you disarm a society, you're asking for bigger problems than the armed and a society of civilians that have weapons. And Jefferson is clear about it, and he's clear about the purpose of it, and it isn't to shoot turkeys and white-tailed deer. Jefferson feared the three Jefferson great fears, and I'm a Jeffersonian in terms of reading. He feared a standing army, so that's why he wanted the regulated militia. He feared a standing army. He feared a national bank, which of course we have in the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
And he feared a national church, because he saw what the Church of England could do, and he saw what the Catholic Church could do in Europe. So he feared a national church, a standing army, and he wanted you to have that Second Amendment, not because you hunted turkeys and deer. He had that so, and as people have pointed out, maybe they haven't pointed out, but when the shot that was fired that was heard around the world, the beginning of the American Revolution, that was a gun grab.
It was.
That was a gun grab.
Absolutely.
We got a break. We're coming back. Hang on. Stand here, 710 KNUS. It is a Wednesday morning, the 9th of July. What a couple of days of talk radio it's been. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. To jump into this, our phone number is 303-696-1971. We're going to set a record today, according to the Weather Service, 100 degrees, 93 on Thursday, and on Friday, 85 degrees. In studios, Ian Escalante. I've spoken with him before, never met him. He's in studio. He's with the Rocky Mountain Gun Organization. And in July the 1, all these new laws kicked in, and getting ready to what's going to happen next in August of next year, 2026, then it intensifies again. The question for the audience is why? 303-696-1971. Does anybody believe, and it's just the ultimate question, that any of these rules, any of these laws are going to have any impact on the rocketing or skyrocketing crime rate in the state of Colorado? And I mean, I think the answer is clear. No.
No way. Absolutely
you
not.
take someplace like Chicago that has really restrictive gun ordinances. How many shootings are there a week in Chicago?
But I don't know if you've seen the headlines, but 55 people got shot at some 4th of July barbecue in a drive-by.
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous. We have American cities now that have now become war zones, and they've become like the third world.
Yeah.
And a large part of that is because of the fact that, I'll give you an example. I was in Baltimore a couple weeks ago, and a friend of mine and I went to an Orioles game, and I'm sitting there, and I cannot, under any circumstances, defend myself in that city. I can't carry in that city without jumping through all kinds of concealed handgun permitting hoops, which they've been challenged in the court so many times. I believe you have to get a permit to purchase in Maryland, and don't quote me on this, but I usually carry 2 spring-assisted knives on me at all times. I know at least in the state of Illinois, you got to get a permit to carry those too. And you go down and you go into this city, and I'm walking around, trying to get to Camden Yards to go watch an Orioles game, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my friend and I'm like, where are we? Is this an American city? And worst of all, I can't even legally defend myself if one of these drugged out freaks comes and tries to rob me. I mean, this is what is happening. This is what we're going to become. And yes, this is very, very big and very important for Colorado. But folks also, if the people listening, if they're thinking about leaving and running to a state like Arizona or Texas, this is what is going to happen on the federal level if we allow it. They've been very clear about this. They've been very clear that what they're doing in Colorado, they want to do tenfold if, God forbid, a Kamala Harris or an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gets elected along with Democrat control of Congress.
And what's coming next August 26?
So what's coming next August is the dream bill of the Democrats. Senate Bill 3 is what it was. It is really become, so it is a permit to purchase semi-auto weapons.
Yep.
And for some background on this, the Democrats have tried on 3 occasions now to ban pretty much all semi-autos. Going back...
Including handguns.
Including handguns. So going back to, I think it was the 13 or 14 session, we had Senate President John Morse, who ran a bill that was called the Assault Weapon Accountability Act, where it would allow anti-gun activists to sue gun dealers who sold so-called assault weapons. Of course, that whole effort crashed and burned. It ended up with him being so angry that the people weren't going for it. He went on the Senate floor and said that Coloradans' love for guns was a sickness that needed to be cleansed out of society.
Yep.
Fast forward about 9 years in 2022, 10 years in 2023, we had the first attempt at the assault weapons ban that was sweeping. It would have banned the manufacture, sale, transfer, And the first draft even would have banned possession and mandated registry of 90% of semi-autos. Fortunately, Rocky Mountain gun owners...
And by the way, who got to say what was what? In other words, what was a semi-auto? Who got to make that call?
The lawyers at Everytown and all the Bloomberg-backed anti-gun organizations. I mean, and I want to get to, all this ties together. This is not just a Colorado-specific issue. I'm seeing this happen all over the country right now. So they tried that. Fortunately, RMGO, under the leadership of Taylor Rhodes, was able to defeat that awful measure, kept it from getting out of committee. Last year, they tried again. That's when I was working on the capital operation for RMGO. We were able to block it from getting out of committee in the Senate. And then this year, they refiled the bill as a semi-auto ban, but they realized they didn't have enough votes for it, so they turned it into a permit-to-purchase system.
Sitting in studio with us from Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, in Escalante is here. And these new laws were enacted July 1, and there's new August 26th. It comes more, but it's the frog in the pot. It's take a little here, take a little there, take a little there, and then pretty soon I got what I want. And enhanced training, and the new requirements now for obtaining or renewing. And I have a CCW, and I have a couple more years on mine. 8 hours in person training. Covering topics like safe storage, handling, and live fire exercise. And the law specifies that training must be in person. The live fire requirements, you have to do it in front of an instructor. Then the background check, a new background check. Applicants must, and again, do background checks far beyond. And I just went through this because I had to go get mine renewed. And you would think that I wanted the I wanted the combination to the vault at Fort Knox. I mean, it was, and I'm not telling. I mean, I understand part of it, but man, oh man. And again, going back to the Jeffersonian notion of this is the only amendment to the Constitution that you have to ask permission for, which is, you do with that as you may, but all the other, including the first, I don't have to ask permission.
No.
For that.
You should not have to ask permission.
Yeah.
And if you look actually, and any liberal that's listening to this is probably going to send Kyle Clark after me for saying this, but the fact of the matter is if you look at the history of concealed carry permits, what are they rooted in?
That was the Florida studies, and they said nothing. It was nothing. The predictors were wrong.
Exactly. And in addition, the whole concealed carry permits are rooted in the whole reason we have permits to carry is because during the Jim Crow era, they did not want freed blacks to be able to carry firearms.
Or
that was
have
the whole
one. Even have one.
Even possess it. Like you learned about the Dred Scott decision, and what they never teach you about the Dred Scott decision is the reason why the Supreme Court ruled that they were not human is because they were very open about the fact that if they actually were, quote, human, then they would be able to exercise rights, including but not limited to the right to keep and bear arms. And that's the whole reason you look at Florida. Florida had an outright ban on concealed carry for almost 100 years, and when it was challenged in court, the Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court said, oh, yeah, this doesn't really apply to white people. This was just supposed to be so that freed blacks couldn't carry. So all of this is rooted
Wasn't
in
Florida the first
oppression.
state? Wasn't Florida the first state to allow concealed? I believe it was.
I think, I believe so.
It's interesting when you read the history, and it's precisely true. In Reconstruction, and African Americans were not allowed to have weapons, even under Reconstruction. And as others have pointed out, when the Night Riders came, the Klan came, that if outside of the cabin where the black family lived, if that man had come out the back door with a double-barreled shotgun and blown Jim Bob off the horse, the lynchings would have stopped.
That did happen, actually, a handful of times.
I know it did.
Absolutely.
But by and large, because these men were not allowed to possess, but when they did and fought back, as we always see, when people fight back, things change. But that went on forever. That's what the lynchings were about. They could stop these guys and just steal them, take them from their homes or their businesses or grab them on the road at night. Had they been able to, like I said, knock Jim Bob off the horse, things might have been a little different.
Absolutely. And the whole point of saying that is not to get into some deep discussion about race, but the point of saying it is that disarmament and slavery, whether in oppression and tyranny, have always worked hand in hand. You see what's happened in communist countries, 60 million, I think the estimates are now between 65 to 90 million people died under communism in the 20th century, more than all the wars combined over the last, 150 years, I think is the statistic. And what happened? They always disarmed the population.
I'm a geek about reading this, and you arm your friends and disarm your enemies.
Absolutely.
And after the terrible Nuremberg Acts and everything that happened, but the Germans, the German government, the Nazi government, rewarded friends with guns and took enemies' guns, or the people they perceived as their enemies. And it's a really interesting study that I read that when the pilots would come down under canopy, and when they came down in Great Britain, the Luftwaffe pilot, the English farmers would run out with pitchforks. When they came down in Germany, the townspeople came out with guns because they were not, if you were favored, and we know there are favored people.
Sure.
I got a big boot out of being at the Gay Pride Parade, 5-6 years ago after that terribleness had happened, and there was John Hickenlooper standing there promising about disarmament, and on both sides of him were State Patrol with guns.
Of course.
Yeah.
As per usual, you look at, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris saying that she's going to shoot someone if they try to break into their house, but she's also going to buy your guns back if you dare own a so-called assault weapon.
Let me take a quick pause and we'll come back and wrap it. It is 8:42, 18 before the hour. Open lines in the 9 to 10. It's been a week, and these are the new gun bills that are passed in studio. Ian Escalante, special good morning to Dudley Brown. 303-696-1971. 100 degrees will be the high. I'm Peter Boyles. This is 710 KNUS. Here we go, everybody. Coming up on the final segment, and then we go to open lines on the other side. Ian Escalante is with us, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. Going to be a hot day, 100 degrees. It's a Wednesday. Phones are lighting up. We'll go to Dave. Dave, you're on a radio show. Good morning, and thanks for calling. Hey.
Good morning. Couple questions, and I brought this up to you actually many years ago now, Pete, and this movement proves it. We will not become a police state by force. We will become a police state by public acclamation. They make it so easy on the criminals for us to be victims that we will eventually take a police state just for our protection.
Well, the question is age-old and historically old, is what does happen when I mentioned a book yesterday, and it was a reader, a combination of things, and I read it in grad school, and it was entitled When Men Revolt and Why. And it was a series of historians that gave the examples of why there were revolutions. And the case that they made was that men revolt on their knees, not on their backs. That when I can get to my knees, I want to stand up. And I don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come, but if you have a place like North Korea, which is a classic example, everybody's on their backs. A select, the military that's loyal to Kim, they have weapons. And it isn't, I'd never expect a revolt, at least in my lifetime, in Korea.
Correct.
So,
no, I'm just saying that when you take away all our ability to protect ourselves, to stand up, then we have to turn to the government to be our savior.
Oh, sure.
And that's what the left looks to.
Well, it is that, and I'll turn to Ian, it is the Jeffersonian warning. Jefferson is brilliant, and Jefferson is an advocate of individual firearm owning. Not, as I said before, not Jefferson he's clear about it. It's not to shoot white-tailed deer and turkeys. He fears the government, and rightfully so.
Pete, if you'll remember back to the 80s when we had, I don't remember now, the summer of violence, and we had gang problems. And the police, nationwide, but especially we did it in Denver, we focused our attention on gang members. And after with that campaign, and I mean, if you got caught and you were suspicious, you were on your knees with your fingers interlaced. And pretty soon, young people weren't carrying guns because the hassle became too big. But then we were accused of, profiling, and now we're back kind of the same problem.
Ian.
Absolutely. Well, Hegel always said that if you want control, you create an issue, you create a crisis, and then you come in as that you have a solution waiting in the wings to be a solution to that crisis. And what we're seeing right now, and I think Dave is absolutely right, because they know that we're not going to go down. If they just showed up tomorrow and said, okay, we're putting up cameras everywhere, you got to ask permission before you leave your house and whatnot, there would be a large resistance, and they saw that during COVID. They saw that there was a large resistance to it during COVID. Now, on the flip side, if you go to, again, like the Baltimore example, where you just turn the cities into such third world war zones that the only way for the people to be protected is to absolutely create a massive police force. And you see this happening with ICE right now. Joe Biden let all these third world criminals in, and not just Joe Biden. I mean, we even go all the way back to the Reagan years where they were just letting pretty much anyone who wanted it to come in across the border. What do we have now? Well, now we have Immigration's Customs Enforcement, which has the largest budget of any U.S. agency in history. The question I have to ask is what happens when they're done deporting all those illegal aliens? I don't think they're just going to go away. That police force isn't just going to go away. So I think Dave is absolutely right, and that is even more of a reason why we need to be armed, because as the police state grows, as things become more chaotic, they're eventually going to run out of bad guys to get rid of, if they even get rid of the bad guys at all. And they're going to start focusing their attention on people who the government views as threats or dissidents.
Well, once a decision is made that we don't like you, and it's again,
Correct.
History is this great teacher that says it's there, it's happened. And no, Dave, final comment from you.
Yeah, it was one more question. I carry concealed under the Law Enforcement Safety Act of 2004 as a retired peace officer. Does the Colorado's laws affect my right to carry a gun under federal license?
So are you talking about regarding reciprocity?
He's a retired cop.
Oh, okay. So I believe I'd have to go back and read the read the statute, but I believe you would still have to, if you're federal law enforcement, you should be.
No, I was state.
You were state.
No, I was
okay.
state. But public law allows me to carry a gun as long as I qualify once a year to an agency. Yeah. Now, can they affect that?
Honestly, I'd have to go back and read the statute. So that's something that I can, what I can do is I can go back and look at that, and I can send it over to Pete, and he can mention it on the air. But no, I don't know the details of that. I believe you would, I honestly don't know. I would have to go back and check on that.
Fair enough.
Okay, thanks for you guys' time.
Thanks, David. Be safe. With open lines in the next hour, just a few moments left. Predictions.
Well, I think number one, things are, if we don't do something and we don't do something quick, things are going to get worse here. They're going to get, and I don't think people really understand how bad they could get. And I've been, given that I've sat down at the Capitol until 4 a.m. more times than I ever could desire, I've heard what they have to say. I heard what their intentions are. Things are going to get worse if we don't do something about it. You also need to look at what's happening across the nation. Look at what happened in Washington this session. Look at what's been happening in Rhode Island, where they just passed a semi-auto ban. The initial draft was going to allow the state police to come kick down your door and take your guns away.
Guns. I know that.
This is where they're headed, and this is what happens if the Republicans at the national level fumble the bag and we get Democrat majorities in Congress and a president, we're going to be in real deep trouble.
Good to meet you. Good to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
Ian Escalante, everybody. Open lines on the other side, and boy, oh boy, there's so much to talk about. 303-696-1971. Peter Boyles in for the fellows. Hang on.